Are you ready to put on those spiritual shoes and walk with me? Now, me putting on my spiritual shoes meant I had to go within. And when I choose to go within, I am changing things that kept me at a standstill. And so my way of thinking also limits me from moving forward. It's almost like technology. Technology is constantly advancing. So people who choose not to learn that, they kind of stay in one place. Now that's okay if you choose to do that. But with myself, because of things that are evolving, that means I need to also evolve. And in the process to do that, I must change my way of thinking. And so some of the ways of thinking also limit me as far as stepping out of fear. And stepping out of fear means getting the right information for the right situation at the time. So what I want to bring to your attention today, what I utilized in my life, one of the things I chose to understand, and that is about the brain. Now this particular book, it says the 3-pound universe. So this particular writer is letting you know that the brain is the universe, because the brain creates everything. Everything that we have, it was created by the brain. And so this person who written this particular book is Judith Hopper. And so this particular book, I'm going to move in a little closer for you. So a lot of books is letting you know in certain areas of your life if that's something you choose to do, and that was something I chose to do. So that gets back to that spiritual walk. That gets back to me getting a degree in loving me. So loving me means I need to change some things that I don't like about myself. And so if it's something I don't like, the better side of me comes to a standstill. And so you have a tendency to find excuses for why you won't change. And so I begin to change my negative self-talk. So this particular book, it says negative self-talk, how to change. So I realized that some of the self-talk that I was doing, now self-talk, nobody else hears that but you. So what goes on in my mind, no one else hears that, but they experience it because it eventually overflows out in my behavior. And so some people, they have a tendency to be upset, and they get upset over some of the smallest things. So what bothers one person may not bother me, because I have chose to move away from negative self-talk, and I have chose to replace it with positive. So I choose to look for the good no matter what the situation is. Now that's not to take away from what's going on around me. That's not to say that it doesn't exist. It's just now I learned that it takes a toll on me based off how I operate when that thing shows up in the presence, in my mind, in my physical presence. So I had to understand I must be able to calm myself, and the only way I can do that is based off of me renewing my mind. So when I renew my mind, I learn to control my actions. I learn to control my anger. I learn to not be upset over something someone else is saying, someone else is doing. I learn how to remove myself out of that situation. So many times, based off our jobs, we are required to be verbally attacked. We are required to just, hey, the customer is always right. Now, over a period of time, that takes a toll on the human mind. And so some people don't know what to do with that. And so that took a toll on me to begin to affect my health. And so I had to understand that it wasn't me, but it was how I was reacting toward that word that that person said. Now, keep in mind, words have a powerful force when used toward a person who do not have self-love. Now, let me say that again. Words. Like a person may say, I don't like her. So it's not that you don't like me. Either you didn't like a word that I said, or it's something inside you that when you heard that word, you interpret that word based on the knowledge that you have, based on the education that you have, and based on all the other things that are disrupting your mental stability. So I learned to now control my thoughts. and how I react. This particular book, it says breaking the habits of being yourself. So being myself means I don't have to react every time someone says something that I don't care for. So that is that person's thinking, not mine. And so once I begin to change my way of thinking, my reaction toward different things, like one person may say, oh, Yolanda, this person said this about you. And I said, well, that doesn't bother me. But the other person still insists on telling you the full ramification of the story, and you already say, hey, that doesn't bother me. Some people just feel necessary to continue sharing that story. And because of that, I had to learn to remove myself. I had to learn to take certain words and empower myself. So that meant I had to change my thinking. And in order to change my thinking, I needed to read up on those who had mastered that. So I have chose to read books that help me master me. So I'm only in charge of Yolanda. Now, there's a difference being on the job. There's a difference in when certain jobs require us to present customer service. But there are times you still have to take that home. So it's very important to renew your mind. It's very important to replace some of the things that came off as an attack. And so there are certain things that you will endure throughout your lifetime. So there are some young people, they may say, hey, I'm going through this and this was happening. Many of us have went through it, so we can tell you how to deal with that. That's even conversations when people have chose to attack our physical appearance. They have chose to attack the color of our skin. They have chose to attack the way we conduct ourselves. So some of those things you're going to have to encounter, and you're going to have to learn how to be a better version of you when it shows up. So I have chose to now empower myself by choosing my words carefully. I understand that when I say something, it's never my intent to hurt another person, but it's also my intent to understand that when it comes to words, they can either tear you down or build you up. So I am choosing words to build people up. Or also, there is that moment where you just have to be quiet. And then there is that moment where you may have to remove yourself from that situation. So when you renew your mind, you understand the valuable, powerful way of removing yourself quietly, and also when it comes to choosing your words that you will release out of your mouth. A lot of times, some of us say, well, I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. And so when it comes back to try to correct it, unfortunately, the person is just so hurt by it. And sometimes the person don't even know how to deal with that emotion. So a lot of times it's very important that we change our thinking. And so when you study the brain, you study how the brain functions, you study how you can change what's best for you, and I have to learn how to change what's best for me. So when we all encounter each other, we recognize that this person, it's really hard to go through life with your head down and not know that somebody say things that are very hurtful, and so you have to understand that out of all the words you chose to speak today, why did you choose something that was very painful to the other person? You can just see their facial expression when you said something that was very hurtful. And even when it comes to people who tell us every day, I love you, but the actions that they display does not represent that. And so we have to be able to say, hey, that's something that I got to work on because that particular thing still bothers me. And so I have to make sure that I renew my mind. I have to make sure that the negative self-talk, because remember, I'm the one having that self-talk. And you have to remember, sometimes people say, well, she should know me by now. No, you got to make sure that if something's bothering you, you need to communicate that. And so that person has a choice to correct it. But if that person don't know, you having that private conversation in your own head. And you asking the question and you coming up with an answer. And so that's something that you're entertaining as an individual. So remember, your thoughts are your thoughts. Your emotions are your emotions. So that doesn't mean that I have full understanding of what's going on in your head. But it's always important to me to always better myself, and that is the purpose of my spiritual walk. That is the purpose of me putting on those spiritual shoes, is so that I can change and become a better version of Yolanda. And so if that's something you are looking to do and you say, Yolanda, you know, that's a good point you're making right there. So you got to stop and think, am I ready to put on some spiritual shoes? Am I ready to become a better version of me? Am I ready? You know, like I said, I am getting my degree in loving me. And loving me requires change. And some changes require discipline. And so that discipline I have to begin to apply in my own personal life. And in order for me to do that, I have to make some changes. In order for me to make changes, I have to renew my mind. I have to take some things, self-talk for stress. I have to remove things that make me uncomfortable. Because we live in a world where everybody is not going to be nice. Every relationship may have a turn that causes pain. And so you have to be able to deal with that. And so in order to renew the mind, you begin to understand that this is happening, but it doesn't have to stay there. And that means the reason why it doesn't get a chance to stay there is because I changed my thinking. So instead of regurgitating that problem, I decide to now go after that solution. And that solution means I have to change that thinking. I have to remove that pain right now that's trying to take over like a virus does in a computer. It goes in and it shuts that computer down. Some thinking shuts some of us down. What they call stinking thinking. So some of that will shut you down all the way to a point you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to get dressed, you're calling out sick, you know, everybody, hey, let's go, there's a birthday party over here, you don't want to go. So you have to learn to renew that mind. And renewing that mind is one of the powerful moving forces in your life. And so take time to read, take time to study you. Take time to say, I am dealing with some of these things. You know what? I didn't even look at it like that. So I had to step back because, I love my quiet time. And in that quiet time, I may say, I shouldn't have said that. I upset that person. So I had to go back. I'm not the type of person that if I say something and I hurt somebody's feeling, I am the type of person, I will go back and fix it. But if you just like, well, I don't want to talk to her, there's nothing I can do about that. If I'm unaware that I have upset you, there's no way I can fix it. And some things, even though I upset you, that doesn't mean that I did that intentionally to cause pain to you. Because I can see that pain in your face. So that's not something I would choose to do as a person. That is just not my spiritual walk. And so I understand that we do things out of anger, but at the same time, I know how to say I'm sorry. And I know how to do it in a way that when I say I'm sorry, I have to work at fixing it. So saying you're sorry and your actions are still the same, I look at that differently. Where if I say I'm sorry, I have to make sure there are actions going behind it. So today, we was talking about negative self-talk, how to change it. Self-talk by stress, anxiety, and depression. So these are some books. If there's some books that you have interest in. Again, I like building up my library, so if I'm faced with something, I can go back and look at it. And also this particular book, Breaking the Habits of Being Yourself. Some of the things that we need to let go, it requires discipline. So if you have to read up on discipline, that's the area you have to go in. If you have to motivate yourself, that all requires us to change it requires me to change some thinking. And so these are some of the spiritual journeys that I'm on. I love my reading. I love my quiet time. So if you're ready to take that spiritual walk, put on those shoes, and I'm ready to walk with you. And so until next time, love and peace.